a log sitting. And the logger wants to operate until basically Mother Nature forces him out of there. He is going to be plowing approximately 2 miles of Long Gulch Road off of the Snake River Road.
Long Gulch.
Long Gulch, that's one of the growth camp.
Oh. Okay, so it's not on the trail system.
Where they were getting.
It's not on the trail system, but it is a Forest Service road that we maintain it for the Forest Service.
That's kind of that dug way.
It's close to there. It's before we get to the Van Oyde way, but it's along that road.
Yeah,
Along
but you
Snake River.
go down along the road and then you turn to go up to the girls'
Right.
camp.
Yeah,
Is there any exceptions if it gets muddy or to close it so we don't have road?
so this basically only goes through January, so it's basically plowing right now. If it comes to get back in early in the spring, he's gonna have to come back and get something else from us.
Okay. If we got anything in there that, I mean, if it does, I don't think it's gonna warm up by January. You know, but where it gets.
He's responsible for damage if we say that there's damage caused by his plowing.
Is that the Snake River Road as well?
Oh, okay. so-
We usually plow past.
But we don't usually run log
There.
trucks, semis.
Yeah.
During the freeze thaw, which we do get that January.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, this goes through January 2nd. So,
But as long as, I guess as long as you don't have weight limits put on gravel roads.
it's this road right here.
Right here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Warm up for January 2nd.
So it's that,
And
this road right here.
and so he's been required to put in signs, and MUTCD signs and
I'm glad
everything
to
else.
see him thinning that, logging some of it. You know,
Yeah.
because of the fire problem.
So it was kind of it was back and forth. First, he didn't want to sign it, and he thought the Forest Service should sign it, and the Forest Service didn't want to sign it. It's like, I don't care who signed it, we need somebody on here to make sure that they're responsible if there's a problem. And that's if somebody goes back in there on the road that they plowed and has a problem, they're liable for it, so.
Okay, what's the JUB thing?
So the contract that we have now with JUB went through the bidding of 45th East. And so they put this together as a scope of work for doing the construction engineering and inspection on 45th East through the project. They've had some preliminary discussions with HK, at least right now, thinks that it may take them 2 years. 2 construction cycles to do the 3 miles. And so this scope of work from JUB is based on doing construction engineering inspections over two years worth of construction seasons.
I thought we pre-qualified the guys that could get it done.
Well, we pre-qualify them based on the amount of money of jobs that they've done in the past. We didn't pre-qualify them on if you can do 3 miles in 1 year.
So I'm guessing they'll start on the Thunder Ridge and then,
Yeah,
like we talked about, splitting it up and go to the railroad tracks and then.
yeah, that's kind of what they're talking about. I don't have a construction management schedule yet. That should be coming back when they get the contract signed. But at least their preliminary discussions with them is they're talking about going to the railroad tracks as phase 1 and doing phase 2 the next year in 2024.
So they're 1.9 million, huh?
Yes,
That's on top of, so we're getting close to that 20
That's on
million.
top of the 16 something.
Yes,
that we approved
it is.
The other day. Yeah, it is gonna take all of
Yeah,
that.
we'll probably have about $1 million left over in that allocation. We were hoping to have a little more. I forgot about the engineering.
Yeah.
You know, to start looking towards these next projects.
yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to get it to you as soon as I could, as soon as I had something. And this isn't the final scope of work and it's not a contract, but it's it's something for you to think about. And we'll have a meeting with HK when they come back with the contract and the schedule and try to see if we can tighten that up some. This proposal is based on time and material. So if they get done faster than that, it wouldn't be all spent, but. So it's in everybody's best interest to try to get it done faster.
Well, and I know we're taking on a lot of these projects that just have to be done because of growth and that, but we're doing everything we can do to get as much federal money, right?
I've been trying,
Money
we've
is
done
what-
pretty well on bridges and stuff like that. Some of the road projects it's been harder to do, but David Romerell and I are discussing some of the applications that are through BMPO now and seeing if we can't identify something else and get in there and get some federal dollars for
What
it.
about the Iona Road? Didn't you say that it wasn't in bad enough condition to qualify down by Rocky Mountain?
So down by Rocky Mountain, there's not enough deficiencies to probably be able to score high in there, but we've also looked at doing that a couple of different ways, so. It's whatever we put in there is gonna be hard to get through the votes of, but we'll try. We'll do everything we can to get in there and score.
BMPO or LTAC?
Well, BMPO is where we go first
Okay,
before it goes to LTAC.
and you'd have a harder time getting the votes on BMPO than you would LTAC.
Yes,
I'm still not happy with the way that whole thing is set up. City of Idaho Falls dominates that.
they do. But we've done a pretty good job from Road and Bridge the last 6 years about getting at least a fair share in there.
I think there's mostly reasonable people sitting on that, but. Okay, never mind.
Well, there's like four.
If we make a good argument, though.
If we make a good argument, if we have the points and the scoring to go behind it, I think there's enough reasonable heads that it won't be discounted just because it's.
I do too.
But they have to rise to this level of proof, and we have to rise to this level.
I would agree with that as well.
I mean,
We
that's
have
the-
to,
Yeah.
we have to work hard, to have everything dotted and crossed.
Yeah,
It takes much less justification for some of those city projects.
No doubt.
I wish it wasn't the case, but
I know.
it feels like it, so.
Is there any movement on that Zitlaw property up there to Birch Creek?
Not that
Have
I,
you met with, there's been no more.
there's been no more discussions, not since they came here. Yeah,
What were
I did see that it was,
Remember that part of the road that was slumping that didn't have good,
Was that still laws?
Zitlaw's the one that sold it, right, to these people.
no, I don't remember.
I don't think
It
so.
was a different name, Saunders or Sanders or something like that.
Laws are up on Emerald Flats. They're just before you go down to the.
Zitlaw had this one at one time,
Did
because
he?
Wayne Jensen sold it to Zitlaw.
Hmm.
He's the one who started the development in there.
Put the paved curb and gutter subdivision in with the.
It's not
gravel
curb and
road
gutter.
that-
No, it's not
Okay.
urban gutter,
It is 3 miles of it's paved,
yeah,
but it wasn't Zitlaw, it was Saunders. I think.
it had changed hands, okay.
But it is for sale, the whole thing
I
is
do.
for sale on land.com, I saw on there.
Well. He was gonna lose his tail anyway on that whole thing. I mean, that guy from California.
Yeah.
And just about the time he gets ready and the economy's going up, he gets ready to want to do something. It goes
Yeah,
back
it's
down.
not
It's
south
back
of
in the tank, so. I'd still work towards it if you can, getting them to do that private road. I think Steve pushed that because he wanted the access to the other end, but it sounds like it's not a good access. You can get to that other end. off
You
of
can
those
get to
other
Mud
roads.
Springs, but even Mud Springs isn't that good most of the
Such an
year.
appealing name.
Mud Springs,
Mud Springs.
Speaking of private roads, do you have a copy of that agreement that was signed on private roads by the commissioners in like 2002?
Not that I'm aware of.
I found it the other day going through Steve's stuff. I'll send it over to you. I wasn't aware that it existed, but there's like a private roads agreement. And then there's like 3 or 4 criteria that are spelled out as to what a private road is going to be designated as, how it had to operate in the county. And then it was signed. So I don't know if that's been overruled by the road standards, but I'll send it to you so you can look at it.
Yeah, I don't
No,
know.
we need to update that.
Yeah, and so that's why I saw that the other day, and as I've been going through Steve's stuff, I'm finding a lot of these older agreements that have been signed by commissioners. I'm like, we don't really do things that way anymore, so.
Yeah.
I think it was 2001 or 2002, so.
Yeah,
I'll
I
send you
don't
over a
recall
copy.
seeing something like that, but that would be good to have.
Up there. On 15th East, up there close to the interchange.
Mhm.
I got a call from Todd Stone and a neighbor. They're looking at buying one of those houses there. And he wanted to know what the setbacks would, or, if they ever improve that, how much of that property they'd lose.
I'd have to talk to him about it.
I told him to call you, but maybe I'll just give you his phone number.
Yeah, that's fine, I'll call him.
We're
If you
finding
run it-
out, just like the guys on Panorama Hills, no matter how much you warn them.
They still do it
The
anyways.
deal looked too good to be true. They're not gonna get cows up there on that small piece of property.
That's what I
Have
think.
to haul water up, have to haul food up.
They don't have water rights, how are they gonna get water to them on some levels? And the water system
That's
isn't
a holiday.
improved, that's been a whole battle with IDWR that we've been through time and time again, and
Cause they've never got the backup well.
we finally just went through and approved them to put in that backup well that they're supposed to be constructing, but they've been gonna build a lot of stuff up there for a lot of years.
And when we met with Brady and those guys, they were gonna get the financing and fix the roads up and everything and.
They did a little bit of work.
Yeah,
They never got them
bailing.
quite all the way.
Well,
They did a little bit.
David Yeaman, who's Brady's father-in-law, last time I talked to him like 3 months ago, he said that him and Brady had had a falling out and David had retaken over everything. So, and I haven't talked, Brady hasn't been involved with it at all in probably the last 6 months. David's called me directly, so I don't know what happened there, but.
And they haven't, I haven't heard that name at all, so they haven't
Yeah.
called us at all.
By the way, thank you for running a good campaign.
Yeah. I was just thinking that. You could sure talk a good story.
So when you're digging, if you find an old dusty book that says Commissioner's Road Book,
Yeah, that would be helpful to have.
What was that?
it was apparently like the older old books in here. But that's where they wrote down all the road stuff as they did it. And
I sent
it's
you guys
not-
a copy of all those road vacations, right?
The
This is-
vacations.
This
We
is,
found all
this
that
is-
2010 stuff when you went through and did all the vacations,
okay,
and I
we're
scanned all
talking
that, is it older than that?
1910,
Yeah, old
Okay.
stuff.
old road book.
It might be
As
in
they
there,
did roads, they put it in this book,
that,
and it's referred to in the commissioner's notes, and commissioner's
Which
minutes,
road Are you talking about?
all the roads, all the old roads. They found comments in the commissioner's minutes that they're scanning in, going, as they get older, of a reference to the commissioner road book.
Hmm.
Which now we would like to have, because it's referenced a number of times, and
Have you found it?
no.
was it
Yeah.
recorded or no?
So I
Penny,
think they
she
were-
hasn't been here long enough to know.
There's some, I'll look in Steve's office,
That-
and
that's
I'll go
good.
look up in the vault, cause Steve
You know,
showed me
the-
where some old road stuff was up there too.
Just
so.
says,
Well, those vacations are kind of a big deal, especially up in that bone area where we were fighting with a couple of chronically unhappy people. Yeah. Because and what they didn't realize at the time, that by doing that cleans up their title on a ton of those old rights of way.
Yeah, no, we got all that stuff scanned. I've got all that saved to the computer and I know where those are up in the vault now too. So. But I'll look for that book. I might find it. I find a lot of treasures every day.
Yes, but sure.
Pull something out. I'm like, I didn't know this was in here.
I do too, but I've got Goodwood.
You have a bigger vault than we do.
Yeah, well, Steve had a bookshelf and I've still been going through it. It's about this tall and it was just stacked full of papers all the way across. So I've been trying to go through and I'll read through a section of stuff and kind of skim through it, get the general idea, and then I go scan it. So if I ever need to look it up, I can just go search in my computer and know, okay, this referenced to that. There's old variances and all kinds of stuff, so.
Kevin left some stuff. Bill Manuel didn't leave much stuff.
No, he and Steve work very well together. Because they both kind of compatible minds, you know, get so many things going on and their lack of record keeping and
Yeah. I say all the time, Steve was super smart, but sometimes he was a little too smart to get the simple things done. Like putting something somewhere that made sense.
Okay,
so that was it.
that was it for what I had. I needed to get this before you and get this road agreement signed.
I was just gonna get all that messed up at once, but you know, if they focus on the right in front of the school, and I was gonna say we won't end up with the Ammon situation on one of our roads. Where are we on those closures?
I've
Are
left
they both
messages for
closed?
Tracy and most of
Well,
Hammond Road south of Sunnyside. They were open for a while. I heard that they were gonna close it back down again. But I don't know where it is. Like I said, I've left a couple messages for Tracy and
then
haven't heard
45th
back.
Sunnyside.
45th.
Brian was just doing, you could have asked him, because he drives them every day,
Yeah,
and usually calls me and says, well, this one's still closed, this one's.
so they ended up
I haven't gotten a
taking,
road report.
they were running the sewer line there and they ended up taking the sewer line and running it through Francis's property. Because it was too deep. So they cut across through her field and then tied in on 21st. They've been open with that for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Would they just give her some hookups or something? Or
I think they paid her some and they told her if they ever want to develop that, which it'll probably eventually be annexed in the city of Hammond, they wouldn't charge her for any of the lines or hookups.
So
And she
gets
got
that
it all
in writing.
she got it all in writing
Okay,
because
so
I
my
told her.
question is, she gets that in writing and then a new mayor and council are in. Can that bind a new mayor and council to,
Yeah, it's
because when
recorded.
they took our well, we lived on Ross. They did that so that they'd have a well and they annexed all that, and the agreement in writing was that the property owners on that well would never have an increase in their water bill. And then 2 mayors later, they conveniently forgot and denied that they were responsible, something signed by.
Well, she had to deed them in easement and on the recorded easement, that's all in there. That's what I told her to do. So it was recorded and it carries through. She's smart enough to do that.
has she been to any PNC meetings yet?
Yeah, she's been to about
She
3.
just missed dinner.
Yeah, they're in, where did she go? Can't remember what she told me. They're on vacation somewhere, but she's really good. I like her a lot. Not afraid to speak her mind.
I think Rourke is coming over Wednesday and or Thursday. Let's see, when's your meeting with the builders? Thursday.
Yeah, that's when our
So
lunch
you might
is,
come-
right?
You might come Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
And then, you know, wanted to know if you guys could get together on Friday to learn us. Why don't you do it on Monday? It's a lot easier to get everybody over there and.
So they've got the brain in.
You got the last piece of equipment in. So
Is it working?
he's going over either Wednesday, probably Wednesday and Friday.
So we've got a PZ meeting on Wednesday, so as long as he doesn't
Leave it in
mess it
a
up.
disconnected mess.
Wednesday night is our PZ meeting over there.
If you got his number,
No,
yeah, you might want to call him and coordinate. Guess you could go back to this. These owls.
yeah. Luckily, we don't have much. We just have 2 plats and then we're doing a work meeting with the city of Iona regarding their area of impact. Their council wanted to come with ours, so we'll see where that goes.
Did you share the proposed area of impact with these guys? I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll give him an update.
I sent you an email on that this morning, so basically at that meeting, what Brad said is. He just said, well, we have the documents from 2014, the agreement that was agreed on by both planning commissions. Is in that email, and then the agreement that the city council went in and changed. Before it came to these guys is in that email. And then he was just sending the boundaries that they had back then. Just to provide, this is the information of where we were last time, but him and Chris Frederickson both agreed that the area of impact boundary needs to change. That's not gonna be the one they're actually gonna use. So that was just kind of some preliminary information of this is where we were last time.
Yeah, but he wanted to go ahead and get the wording, before and
Yeah.
after they made the changes when we. would
Yeah,
like
he wanted to.
Not put the map, we could work on that later.
Brad said, well, I think we should just do the agreement and leave the area of impact as it is. And then we can do the boundary later. I said, no, they need to both be done at the same time, because what the boundary is directly gonna affect what's in the document. And Chris Frederickson said, I agree 100%, Brad, we need to do that before. So I got him on the page of trying to do them both at the same time.
But the problem I've got is they haven't answered a single question.
No,
They've
they
talked about the impact fees, but they're not giving any answers, and that's where the map will come in.
Yeah.
On what they're gonna propose, is if they're not gonna answer them, they're going back to the default of saying, look, this is what they worked out. And then we had to go and say, hey, you didn't tell us for a year that you changed your policy. And we, what it is, the other one that they're talking about, the one that we redlined out.
Yeah. So that's the ones
So
that
we're not
we have.
any place other than where we came to a
Left
stop
off,
and said
no.
we were loggerhead.
And I told Brad, I said, we're gonna have to redo all of that. Well, yeah, I know, I agree, but. I kind of just said, let's start there. We can look at the document and before we meet in January, we can both go through and circle and highlight things that we know need work. And kind of begin the discussion there, but you're right, they haven't answered any of the questions. Brad just basically says when I ask him about it, well, we feel like the city council is willing to work with it. But what does that mean?
Yeah. It means the same thing that it's always meant.
And that's why I basically told him, I said, Brad, I'm fine if we get together and we say, okay, these are the things we have a problem with. We put together kind of a preliminary document that we feel like, okay, the county and the city can both agree on these things from the conversations we've had, and we take that to planning commission. But I said, I'm not gonna drag it out forever. I said, if we do that, it goes to planning commission, they say, make these changes. We're gonna take it back, we're gonna make the changes, and then we're gonna put it in front of the city council and the commissioners and let them vote on it. If it dies, it dies.
That's what we talked about in the city county meeting, is the direction for you, staff, both of you, to work that way.
Yeah.
And now they're going back to the default of.
Because it does us no good. That's what I told him. I said, it does no good to sit and try to solve all these problems. Let's put the document together. Say, okay, this is preliminary, take it to the planning commissions. They can say, we agree with this, we don't agree with this. After we have that meeting, they can make recommendations of what they want to change. We can make the changes in the documents and send it to the city council and the commissioners and let them vote on it. It doesn't need to be a 2-year drawn out process of trying to decide what to put in there or not put in there.
The mayor's weaponizing that, so I think we just stay the course. All they got to do is answer the questions, and then we'll see if there's common grounds, because I agree, most of it we could find common ground. But how do you find common ground with somebody you don't know where they're
How do
standing?
you find common ground if you don't communicate?
I don't know.
Well, and that's what I was telling Roger when I was talking to him last week. I said, you know, they make a lot of commitments and. One thing that I told Brad, because they were talking about, well, yeah, if we put in the area of impact agreement that we're gonna extend services. Then how does that all work out? And I said, Brad, you need a piece of paper that's outlined every single service. And the cost for members or citizens of the county to hook up if they're not in the city limits. And I said, I'm gonna agree to that paper before it ever goes anywhere.
Well, we
Because
also-
they'll just go in and say, well, we'll extend services, and then what are they gonna do? They'll hike rates for people in the county to hook onto them or use them all
And
the
then their
time.
land, then they're pretty much, we've done a taking at their whim.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, if that's something we're gonna agree upon, there needs to be a whole nother realm of research with Idaho Falls Power, all these other people. You outline what they're gonna do and what they're gonna charge, so if people come into me and say, hey, we wanna develop this, but we know we have to do it to Idaho Falls standard because it's in the area of impact, I can hand them a piece of paper. And say, this is what costs you're gonna incur to do this.
Well, and that costs go much beyond what you're looking at. I mean, it comes back to the infrastructure of the roads and too,
Yeah.
is what are you gonna make this developer do if he's in the area of impact?
I was gonna tell these guys discussion we had, but the other thing to ask him for is where's the decision that the mayor said that they had made to allow other utilities to serve inside?
Years ago,
No, it wasn't years ago.
years ago. I heard that from her mouth.
Oh, well, okay, ask Brad.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, if that's truly there, then I'm gonna say, okay, well, that needs to be in the agreement. Because then these people should be able to be served by other utilities in the area of impact and the city can still annex.
That's right from the horse's mouth.
So I think it'll still be a process, but I'm just hopeful that we can work together, put something together. And just get it before the boards, and if it dies, it dies, we'll just say, okay, we're done with it, and if not.
Here's where I had no turnips on my truck is getting it rolled out again.
Yeah.
Tell them the meeting that you had with the INL bus lot and
Well, that was my next question. Would you
Yeah.
come out with Chris on that?
Basically, I started to bring it up to Chris, I said, this is our concern, only the half section of the road. Got improved to be commercial, the buses are basically driving down the middle of the road or a lot of the other side of the road until they get to the intersection, which hasn't been improved. And I said, it's just interesting to me because the development agreement only talked about Bellin and the highway, Broadway.
which was recorded.
Which was recorded, and it said nothing about Sunnyvale, and I said, I just am curious, and in the meeting, it said Sunnyvale wasn't gonna be used, so I said, I get that things happen in the development process, and sometimes you find out, oh, we can't use Bellin, so you've gotta do something else. I said, I'm not pointing fingers at you, but I just think that there should have been more done there, and I no more than said that. And Carrie just immediately jumped down my throat, we made them do plenty, and they did way more than they wanted to do, and so I just said, well, I'm just bringing it up because it's still in the county and they're coming to us and saying, these are the problems we have, and the impact was put on there because of the bus parking
They
lot.
did way more than they wanted to do of city requirements.
Yeah,
Nothing outside. So
so,
what I told Lance is this might be another level when they come for an access permit. You require the development agreement, to see if it's compliant. Because they just kind of made it up as they went, didn't bother to tell Lance the situation until we got into,
We were taking advantage of it.
yeah, that's a little more.
And I told her-
Trying to be nice in that.
Yeah.
I told Chris, I said, I'm not even coming to you saying, look, the city needs to do something here. I said, we're just looking for a solution for these people.
Well, we
And
are.
what is it? Yeah, and I told him, I
Share.
said, we talked about putting in a median there and we looked into the costs of that, but I said, I don't feel like that's all the county's responsibility. And Chris is like, yeah, I would agree with you. So he's pretty reasonable about it. I think he didn't really realize what happened there either when they did it, but
So is there gonna be anything done? to
it
help?
doesn't sound like it. He said that they've been into him a whole bunch of times.
Oh, they have.
And he's basically told them, you know, at such time that we can actually go out and do some tests and prove the road's actually deteriorating, then we'll come in and upgrade the whole road. But,
Did they get that in writing?
yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, even when they have P and Z minutes that says the Sunnyvale Road won't be used, and that's what the P and Z board made their motion off of. They don't even hold that for anything.
But we talked to them about even this, you know, getting better turn radius and kind of building out that extra lane there. You know, even the possibility of with our, you know, road and bridge could come in and do some in-kind work and everything to help the city.
Well, and that's what I told him. I said, we're not just asking for the city to take care of it. I said, I think we would look at some kind of agreement to do something there. But the city just doesn't even want to touch it.
Well,
Brad just laughed, oh, they've been in here 10 times and they wanted the city to annex them and build that other road for them. You know how they wanted the other direction out.
Yeah, I know that.
And it's like, Brad's like, we're not gonna do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you did put a lot of impact there.
Anyway, so when they come for access permits, that's the next level of tightening. Like we've had to do out on 65th. And just
They come for access permission, they need to come for access permission.
just make sure that one or both of you inform
They
them.
don't, we have Jersey barricades, right?
We can get them.
Stafford's trying to worm his way out of any type of road costs or improvement out there.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
He's bugged me about it like 3 times. He calls me, oh, what's my responsibility? I give him the same answer every time. I say, all right, what's your email? I'll send you the development agreement, which I've sent it to him 2 other times. And I say, you read it and then you call me and tell me
Call me,
what your responsibility
because
is.
we went around and around on that thing.
And he's like, well, the road's moved now. I said, yeah, but you're still responsible. You were responsible to build the road around there. You're the one who deeded them the ground to be able to move the road. You still have responsibility. Okay.
Please,
He's just trying to get out of it.
please
but
tell him to call.
I
me.
saw him the other night at the concert up at BYU, Idaho, and said hi to him and talked to him for a minute, but he always asks me to send it to him. I send it to him and then he never calls me back because he knows I'm gonna give him the same answer.
His reputation by one of his close family members is Stafford will step over dollars to pick up a dime. You know,
No, my dad grew up across the street from him and said it's funny, you know, you go talk to him and try to buy a car and you're always getting a family discount, but somehow you can call down to American Falls and get the same car for $3,000 less, even when you're getting a family discount.
that's why they're building Ted Jenkins now. So that's
But anyways, I'm surprised he hasn't called you. He's called me about 3 times. Well, what do I need to do here? And I'm like,
He doesn't like me.
Hire a contractor and build the road.
and he's supposed to build the rest of Pioneer too, portion of it, and he hasn't done that.
How is that? Distribution center coming.
I think it's almost done.
That's the one thing Brad keeps.
I wondered when they laid off all their
He said-
employees, if it was gonna slow down their expansion.
Amazon. And, you know, Austin always goes back and says, oh, you mean the distribution center that the Riverbend is building?
Yeah, I think that they're wanting to be open by the end of February, is what I'd heard originally, so
Eventually, they're gonna start hiring and word's gonna get out, who's,
they already have job postings.
how they do.
Yeah, there's some out on LinkedIn.
Does it say
Idaho Falls
Amazon?
there. Yeah,
Oh, it does?
they're hiring and it says Amazon and it says location Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Oh, really? Shouldn't be that big a secret then.
Most people know, I think. I've heard rumors of it out and about. And
Brad's just trying to get confirmation from us.
yeah, he just wants me to say it and I know that, so I just don't say it.
What's the status of the new packing plan?
I think Ron's gonna give him a certificate of occupancy next week when he gets back. Last I talked to him, which was last week, they're taking some of their old cows that aren't as good of meat and have been running them through to test all the operations and how it works. And
I was hoping we'd get it towed before they.
Ron said he'll once he's going out to do the CO, he's gonna set up a time to take everybody out there. I went out there about a month ago. They were just starting to paint the inside. Holy cow. They were putting up the racking where they're storing the meat. Just the racking in those two freezers, fridges
Fast freezers.
was like $2.5 million just for the racking. But it's just amazing. It's all sloped, so they load it in and it just slides down and they can just go with a forklift and grab one, and the next pallet that's all loaded slides down. They can drive it right out to the truck.
Let's do it when it's a little warmer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not much fun to go from freezing to really freezing and then back out to freezing.
But yeah,
It's cold last time.
it's a pretty amazing building to see everything that they've done in there. I mean, when I was out there with Ron, he was doing a pressure test on the gas line, and Ron's like, I don't even know how you do a pressure test on a gas line this big. He's like, he had them pump it up to the PSI, but he's like, if there's a leak somewhere, you'd have to spend 2 days out here following all the lines and listening to everything. But we were out there for about an hour and a half and it held the whole time. But then they've got a portion of the building that they have to do later on, so they'll have to shut off the whole gas system. And they put quick connect keys in there so they can just shut it off and hurry and get the new gas in and turn it back on. It's just, they've thought of everything.
Yeah, plus they got the gas line run out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we were doing the pressure test so late, so they didn't have any gas. But,
Well,
yeah, I'll make sure he takes you out there,
Yeah,
'cause it really is.
I would like to-
all this area of impact stuff, because I'm, these guys might want to drag it on for years, but I'm not interested in starting over unless there's a reasonable chance that we can work something out. That doesn't mean we're gonna expect everything our way. We need to find out what
It's
they
gotta
want.
be done, but it takes both sides.
Yeah. They just won't let us know what they want.
Well, and Brad was giving me the old. Well, we need to hurry and get it done because we've got council members who are gonna be up for reelection, and then everything changes.
That's how they got the agreement not to extend services and didn't tell us about it. Because Rebecca said, well, we had council leaving, so we had to hurry and do it before they got, because they wanted to. Well,
I guess
And then they're gone.
well, then they didn't.
Dixon's finally leaving the planning and zoning commission. His last month's in January, I think Brad was telling me, so. So they're gonna have like 5 or 6 new planning and zoning board members. And then they said, well, one of these new members has been on a commission before, and we finally have somebody who wants to be the city of Idaho Falls rep. And I said, well, we already appointed somebody, because you didn't have somebody, so I'll have to go look at my numbers and see if we even have room for them and what the state statute limits, and if not,
You begged them for a year.
yeah. If not, sorry, we'll just have to wait until that position comes open again.
Who, you guys know anybody, either in the Yukon area or kind of the area, because those are the next two, Russ Donahue and Doyle. Those areas.
Yeah, we probably want to start thinking about those.
Yeah, and Doyle could include the other side, in that New Sweden where we don't have
Especially
representation.
where we got Tuttle.
Yeah, because Doyle lives in the city of Idaho Falls area of impact, so it'd probably actually be good to go more than
To
a
go
Sweden
west.
direction, because
Yeah.
Kelly's kind of covering that
Yeah,
Idaho Falls area.
I'll keep trying to think of somebody out there.
And the Yukon area, you've got Doug Barry, but he's a little farther to the east.
Yeah,
I don't know if we need a city person from Yukon.
they don't really ever do much. I don't know that we do.
Yeah, because Russ, he's so busy being a bishop.
I know, I feel bad for him. I saw him the other day at Sam's Club. He had all 30 of the youth with him coming to feed him lunch after they done a service project.
And see, that's his problem. He's that kind of bishop.
Yeah, which is what they're supposed to do now, but it's really hard. That's what I'm over in the high council is stake young men's, and we find that it's really hard to get the bishops to be involved as they should be now with the young men.
That's why they need younger bishops.
I almost said that, and then I felt bad.
Well, but the problem with younger bishops is they've got young kids.
Yeah.
Busy, you know.
That is busy for them, but
I know a guy that's interested, because he lives on Iona Road,
yeah, which
between
would
20th and
Bill Iona, B Iona, which is what we already have.
Steve Post, he's a construction management engineer. Works at the INL now.
They're very small in the Coleman area, isn't it?
Yeah. It would almost be good if we could maybe move that to somebody who's a little more towards the Ryrie direction. Cause we've got Iona, but
There's
not who.
There's Smith out there.
No. I knew you were gonna say that.
You saw the grin, huh?
Yeah.
Let's not do that. I hear she's got a libel suit against, Daryl.
Yeah, they were in court the other day. When I walked out of Road and Bridge last week, Daryl was standing over the railing and was talking to me. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm in canal court today, so.
All right. Now you're all up to date.
You guys have meetings for the next 2 days?
Yeah,
Did you end up going to Mexico?
I did.